Okay, we're talking with Matt Palumbo. This episode's going to be called A Chat with Matt, and it's Matt Palumbo. Welcome to How to Be Tom Shillue. Here we go, Matt.
Well, thanks for having me on, and I'm looking forward to learning how to be Tom Shillue.
Yeah, it is a learning process.
It's a learning process.
Hello?
I don't even know what this episode. This is A Chat with Matt, but every episode is another. It's another chink in the armor. How you can be Tom Shillue, and I guess if you want to be Tom Shillue, you have to talk with guys like Matt Palumbo. I mean, that's really the essence of it. So
my parents asked me, like, what are you and Tom going to talk about? And I'm like, every time I'm on a show, I'm like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, no, I leave it way up, and obviously you can roll with the punches, and so that's why I wanted to speak with you today. I thought we would do a couple of things. I have a couple of things in my head, but if you have anything you want to talk about, just launch into it and then away we go.
Sure.
But I thought the first thing that'd be interesting, just to kind of jog your memory and see if you remember or how you remember the whole Mike Cernovich incident on Red Eye. Because I've never talked to you about it. I never talked to Mike about it. I never talked to anyone about it. We did Red Eye. The Mike Cernovich incident happened. It was one of those bizarre things. Then it just, I just kind of went and did my show again the next day. Everybody moved on. The whole world changed and everyone seemed to forget about it, but I didn't forget about it. And so I'm wondering what you remember about it, because I knew of Cernovich. I was kind of following him online at the time, but I was very busy. I was hosting Red Eye, but I would kind of go on to Twitter and I would see Cernovich, and then I would kind of read some of his posts on his, guerrilla mindset blog or whatever it was. And I thought, well, this is an interesting guy. And then you recommended him to Red Eye. You put us in touch with him. We booked him on Red Eye. And then tell me your impression of what happened after that.
Well, I'll give some setup. So it was, I think I recorded my first Red Eye episode early in the week. And I think it was either the day or the day after. And it was an episode where I think we were recording it ahead of time for some reason. But anyway, so like the next day I'm at a bar in Manhattan with some friends and Mike Cernovich is there. So of course, like I get, and I think I didn't know who Mike was, but I think one of the people in my group knew Mike. So I think that's why they invited me. So anyway, I ended up talking to Mike for a while and we exchanged numbers and info. And then a few days later, someone from Red Eye asked me, like, after I was on the show, like, hey, we're always looking for new guests. Do you know anyone? And I just said, well, funny you ask. I just met this guy at a bar the other night. He'd probably be good. So I remembered, you guys had him on. It went really well. And then I guess some guy at Vanity Fair wrote a hit piece about him. And then there was like a black hole where me, Gavin, him couldn't go on Fox for like 6 months.
It's really something, right? So that is so fascinating. I didn't know, though. I wouldn't have said.
Well, I remember, too, you messaged me, I think maybe it was 6 months after. And the first thing I did was apologize for the whole situation. And you were like, oh, I didn't even know it was I think they didn't even tell you or anything. So I was going to then come back on Reddit, I think, after that kind of blew over. But then the show ended. So it didn't really go anywhere. But yeah, it was it wasn't the end of the world. It was just unfortunate in that they asked me for help finding someone, and then they were thrilled with the guest, and then it blew up afterwards. And I don't know. I don't see why anyone should care what a Vanity Fair guy has to say, to be honest. So,
well, that's it. But I think that certain people, and I mean, people pretend it doesn't happen today, but there are certain people in media circles that kind of stick together and they all kind of play on the same thing. It wasn't actually Vanity Fair. Let's look because I have I'll show you what it was.
It was titled like, "Why did Red Eye have on a rape apology?" It was something absurd like that kind of title.
Let's do it. It was Daily Beast. Is that Vanity Fair?
Beast. You're right. It was Daily Beast.
Okay. Daily Beast is kind of Vanity Fair, right? Because it was Tina, what's her name there, right?
Something Chinese, right? I think, right? Nyberg or something.
No. Tina.
Nothing is Sarah something. I'm horrible with names, so just
Tina Brown.
Okay, I was thinking of someone totally different.
Yeah, I mean, Tina Brown was like a grand dame of the New York media world, and I think she was Vanity Fair, and then she was Daily Beast. But yeah, let's look at this headline. Why did Fox News welcome date rape apologist? This is the phrase. Date rape apologist is in all the media coverage of this story. So it's Lloyd Grove. Do you know Lloyd Grove?
No, is he a date rape apologist?
No, apparently not. He's a date rape apologist,
slayer,
scout. Yeah. Slayer. So so Lloyd Grove, which he sounds like a New York media guy, he starts his article, Fox News, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Twitter troll, male centric. Everyone is. So this is what he says. Everyone is expressing disbelief that male-centric blogger, Twitter troll, and ardent Trump fan Mike Cernovich was booked as a guest. So it wasn't just that. It wasn't anything he said on the show, because on the show he was quite professional and reasonable. Yeah. It was that it was disbelief that we would book him on the show. Now look at this first quote. "You've got to be kidding me. He's a nutcase," said right-wing author and radio host Ben Shapiro. "Creating any legitimacy to a fringe kook like Mike Cernovich and all the attendant nastiness and problems is close to insane by any cable network." Now, I don't know Ben Shapiro. I kind of like him, but at the time, I knew him as a right-wing guy, and I thought, well, now why is Ben Shapiro getting in on this kind of Karening of, or it was this was before Karen's, I think, but I wonder why did he react that way? You've got to be kidding me, you think?
I've been reached for comment before, and there are times where you're just busy, you get asked, "Hey, what's with it?" and you just type back. And I mean, I don't know. I think, and my memory is kind of hazy. I assume, and I'm sort of remembering, they must have had some sort of back and forth on Twitter or some sort of spat in the past. And I'm assuming that's kind of what he's responding to, because I just find it hard to believe people are that upset about something that happened at 3 a.m. And I mean, no offense to Red Eye, but it's like, you guys clearly didn't watch the show. So what are you upset about? You're just mad that some guy you don't like got attention.
Yeah, and then Ben Howe. Do you know Ben Howe? He was at Red
State, and then he did the whole "I'm going to be a principled Republican," and then lost his entire audience, basically.
Right, because I think that's what Red State became, as kind of a softer version of the Lincoln Project, I think.
Well, they had. So I remember, because we covered it on Bongino Report, there was like a schism a few years back where they lost a number of their top writers who were anti-Trump, kind of jumped ship. So I think it's mainly pro-Trump people that remain. But there was like a never Trump faction of the site back 4 or 5 years ago for sure.
Yeah. So Ben Howe says, "Are you serious?" Again, these people really pro clutching at the. Are you serious? He was a guest on effing Red Eye. That's giving this mother effer legitimate. You could swear on this podcast, but I prefer not to. But
I won't. Yeah.
But legitimacy. Oh my God! Which I don't even like to say that phrase. But here's the deal. So, again, another guy. So at the time, I guess Cernovich was less well known, but he appears to have been very well known in the right wing community, right?
I think he was in those sort of Milo Yiannopoulos type circles where they definitely were. The thing is, too, like a lot of these people in media, even if they're similar ideologically, there are competitors, and that they are sort of going for different factions of the party. So, I mean, Cernovich, Milo, they're all competitors to the establishment. And, certain people like Milo has, fizzled out and sort of had an obvious shelf life. But there are a lot of the sort of populist elements of the base have definitely stuck around. And I think it's just kind of here to stay.
Yeah. So then there's also, of course, I just want to share this other one because it's kind of funny. Mediaite. Fox News under fire after inviting rape apologists.
Come on.
I mean,
You can always tell too where they cut and pasted the headline or the body from and rearranged three things.
Yeah.
It's rape apologist is just the line we're going to see.
yeah. And
Yeah.
but the quotes of me, they quoted me. I love this guy. Tom Shillue told viewers, I love the hell out of this guy. We're probably going out after the show and have drinks. We didn't end up having drinks.
We really
but,
need to go commit date rape.
yeah, I mean, that was
it's so absurd.
really. But yeah, I would not have remembered it that way. In that, at the time, I thought you were kind of a Red Eye regular, but you had only made your first appearance. On
Yeah, one appearance, and I only got booked for a second time because they accidentally double booked me, and I think felt bad, so they didn't cancel the second one. So I was only booked for the one they canceled by accident anyway. So it didn't. It was a bummer when they canceled on me, but I kind of had the thought of like, well, it was sort of a technicality in the first place that I got the opportunity. So maybe God was just kind of making that one a wash. But I've recovered since then.
It is also interesting the way that, because some people kind of come in and then I almost think that, because you mentioned Milo, I'm not sure what he's doing, and maybe
he's. I don't know if Milo knows what he's doing. I know people who've worked with him, and it seems like he's kind of impossible to work with. And he's just done a lot of things that don't make any sense. Like he's claimed he's like an ex-gay now, but I don't know if I don't buy it at all. I don't know. He's just kind of all over the place. And I've heard stories that I won't repeat, but only I'll just say that I don't think he's real. There's not going to be really a second coming of his career or anything. I think he kind of had a niche that could exist for a year or two. But it's just sort of tiresome, after a little while, even though I agree with a lot of it. Yeah.
Well, when he first was on the scene, I suggested him as a guest on Red Eye, and the senior producer took a look at him and said, I don't think so. It just didn't want to book him. So it wasn't any kind of like, there wasn't any controversy. He just didn't. And I said, oh, okay. I was wanting to have on people that I saw as being really on the edge outside that weren't getting media coverage anywhere else. And so that's why I jumped on the Cernovich thing. And then, of course, then the media jumped on that like crazy. And it was one of my first examples with the, I don't even think we talked about cancel culture at the time, but it was like a piling on. And I think it's interesting that this guy, Lloyd Grove, and then we had that guy over at Mediaite. I think their Rolodex, they go right to the right wingers. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's what they do. They want to give it legitimacy, and it's like everybody's upset at this.
They can't make it like Huffington Post is mad because of course they're mad. They have to make it seem like it's a right wing outrage. And Ben Shapiro was probably the most mainstream person there. He's a legitimate authoritative figure, so they were smart to quote him. I just don't know why he gave them the quote. Like I'm of the mindset that even if there was someone on the right who I don't like, if the media reached out for me for dirt on them, I wouldn't give it just because we're of the same cause. That's kind of the way I view it, at least. But
that's the other thing is those phrases that came up a lot were things like why would they grant him legitimacy? Why would they give a platform to? And those kind of words or phrases, I'm very opposed to, because I'll give a platform to anybody. I mean, that's the whole thing.
The thing is, too, platforms don't really give legitimacy. I mean, if you put me on a platform, you could put the craziest person on earth on Joe Rogan. He's not going to convert anyone because people can look at it and themselves determine, all right, this is a bit kooky. So it's really, I mean, it's just so middle school. They're just, as we said earlier, they're just upset he got the opportunity, and the excuses of, oh, it's the platform, oh, it's legitimacy. Listen, when there really are crackpots getting airtime, you just make fun of them. And in fact, that it makes our job easier. We would prefer it. And the reason they're not just making fun of us is because they can't. Matt Walsh's documentary, What Would Be a Woman? You can't make fun of the right as being like, these puritanical bunch anymore. It's just, they can't offer anything. So I don't know. I think I'm taking too much time to say the obvious, but
no, I think that's what. But of course, in the end of the story, then, I don't know how much later it was, within 6 months or a year, Cernovich did 60 Minutes. He did a bunch of other things. And he handled himself with such dexterity that they couldn't do this kind of cancel thing on him anymore. And so they just gave up and they said, oh, we're not going to try to cancel him. And then that rape apologist phrase just went away because, they have to kind of go after him for other reasons, or, I guess they couldn't ignore him anymore, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, okay, have him on your show.
Well, the rhetoric too, it only works within a niche political sphere. Like if you were trying to explain the situation to someone on the street and you went, yeah, he's a rape apologist, they're going to go, whoa. Yeah. This guy's job is to go defend rape. And you're going to go, okay, no, he had a tweet in 2011. And, it's just the language itself is just laughable when you really boil down what they're saying. And it's sad that it works.
Yeah. So let's just kind of do it for people who don't know you, I guess. So Bongino Report, that's your baby, right? So what do you do?
I post links all day when I read the news. That's pretty much my life. I wake up at 6 a.m. I post some links. I go for a walk. Yeah. I post some links. And then as I prepare for bed, I'll read the news so I have more links to post in the morning. And it's basically the last 3 years of my life or some variant of that with books being written. I should step back. So 10 years ago, had to write a 10-page paper for this is 2010. So this is 13 years ago. I had to write a 10-page paper, which for me, as sophomore year, was a very, very big deal. And I had to write it in the Second Amendment. And it ended up being some 30-page monstrosity by the end of it because I just couldn't stop reading. Yeah. And then I had this thought of hey, there's all these political topics in the world I want to learn about. If I could do this for gun control, why don't I just do the same sort of research I did for this topic to all these other things? And, by the end of a few years, I could even put it into a book and be an expert and get on TV. And I did that, and it was still another 10 years after that of work before you get on TV and do that stuff. But that was sort of the genesis of it all. So I started self-publishing books, and Bongino noticed me, I think around 2014 or so, and he was kind of one of the first big people to kind of notice my work and start elevating me. But then I would just do little radio shows here and there. I think Gavin McInnes I went on in 2015, and he's the one who ended up getting me on Red Eye, I believe. He was the one who pitched me. So Red Eye ended up being the first TV appearance, and Ever since Red Eye, I was just kind of doing little odd jobs writing. I mean, I took a job at a bank when I couldn't find employment, but then out of nowhere, I got a call from Bongino while I was sitting at PNC, and he said, I'm starting a new company and you're going to run it. And I said, cool, sounds good, and never went back. And been doing that since around the end of 2019, and then just sort of books here and there. People might know me from a book called The Man Behind the Curtain, which is about George Soros and his malfeasance all around the world. But that's pretty much my... in I guess 2 minutes or less what I'm up to.
I'm going to ask you about the Soros thing because I heard you with Candace on her podcast. But the Bongino Report, he said, I'm starting a new company, and this was when, around 2019, you're saying?
It was either November or December of 2019.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic.
If I'm correct, Bongino kind of swept in like a vulture when Drudge Report kind of went bad, right?
Yes. Or that was our goal. Was they have an audience. They no longer cater to their own audience. So if they're not going to, we might as well. But obviously, we haven't dethroned them as we hoped. But we still got enough to have a website that sustains itself and some staff and all that. So yeah, it's going pretty well.
Yeah. And what was it with Drudge? I mean, Drudge Report is still Matt Drudge, right?
It seems like it is. I mean, if he sold the site, there would have had to be some NDA where he's not allowed to say it. I guess on the theory that maybe the name has value, but that's just me speculating. I have no idea. It seems like it's him. I don't know what issue he had the schism with Trump over, but it seemed like that probably some motivation. Him and Trump had some break, and this is his revenge, I guess. But I don't know.
It's not just Trump. I mean, you have people like Ann Coulter, obviously, total split from Trump. Now her entire thing is pointing out, problems with Trump, but she's got a right-wing following. I feel like they went left-wing. They went left-wing.
Drudge went left-wing. Coulter is the anti-Trump from the perspective of he should have been much more right-wing. Yeah. His is the perspective of, I'm a shit lib now, basically. I don't know what and I've been asked to speculate on that. It's impossible to really know, but some switch just flicked in the guy's head. So it's either something happened with Trump and that, I don't know, he's rebelling, or I guess maybe he just secretly sold the site, or just is not overseeing day to day. What's going on?
It is true because you talk about the switch. Once the switch is flipped, you have someone like Bill Kristol, right? Who was essentially he was the America's definition of conservatism. And then he lost it over Trump. And he's now a total left-wing liberal Democrat. Like there's no policy at all that resembles conservatism with Bill Kristol. And there's a number of people like that who were very, kind of like establishment conservatives. And they went ahead and became, liberal. It's really funny.
It proves that the politics is more about power for them than anything else, because like there is the thing about changing your mind on an issue or changing your ideology. Or I should say back, people who change the religions, for instance, or join a new religion.
Yeah.
It's not like something just happens and you go, oh, wow, I believe this now. It's usually just a very gradual learning process of little pieces of evidence that are adding up over time. And over a certain period of time, you go, oh, okay, and I kind of see a new way of seeing things. So if you were a huge Republican and I don't know, your view on guns gets challenged where, hey, you're a Republican, but you think guns are a bad thing. Well, you're just a Republican who doesn't like guns. You're not a Democrat now. You're a Republican minus one issue. And if you are someone who then changes on 400 other issues overnight, I go, well, that's a little weird. Why would that one issue cause you to change on everything? Like, well, so you're not for low taxes anymore because of the gun issue? Like, these things don't correlate. So whenever people have uncorrelated issues that they all flip on at once, I go, okay, you never believed it. You just wanted power. That's how you did it. And you notice all of the Bush era neocons are now like Stephen Colbert tier Democrats.
Yeah.
And it's whatever faction of the GOP party or GOP they were in was so close to the center it could tip over to the left at really the smallest gust of wind, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Bush is one, the Bush staffers, but MSNBC is basically their entire lineup was it was
it's Nicole Wallace, right?
Well, yeah, they were staffers for what's his name there in Arizona?
McCain.
Yeah, McCain.
Yes, we forgot his name.
Is he Arizona? That's what I think.
The Arizona guy.
I forgot his name here, McCain. But McCain's entire staff, it's like Lincoln Project, the MSNBC lineup, So it kind of just shows you the way that things have gone down. And I guess you were there at the outset of all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, that's when you were just coming out of college. The whole world was imploding, and everything was getting divided up. And you had Trump, and then essentially MAGA, right? And everyone acted like it was this big shift. Obviously, it was a huge shift in personality because of the way Trump really did things differently according to his bizarre personality that he has, right? But I don't know if MAGA America is that much different from Tea Party, which was pre-Trump. Am I right?
Well, I don't know, the general sentiment of we have, I don't know, some greatness in the past and there are elements we have to respond to is something that actually kind of both sides will harp on here and there. One thing that reminds me of, and I had this thought because whenever Trump would say like, make America great again, the left would default to race and say like, oh, so you mean like back when we had Jim Crow?
Yeah.
And this came to mind. There was, and I probably didn't watch this show. It was horrible. It was called The Newsroom. And in the pilot episode, there was this clip that went viral where Jeff Daniels' character is asked, like, why is America the greatest country in the world?
That
and
video.
He goes from this insufferable rant. But here's the thing. It's a left-wing Make America Great Again rant because he is giving the left-wing version of these are certain values I think the country had and we should get them back.
Yeah.
And of course, no liberal would go, oh, so you mean Jim Crow? But of course, when it's our version of it, then they have to do that. But I only brought that up in that whatever sense that is that Trump tapped into definitely exists on both sides of the political spectrum. So it can't be like, blamed on race or something like that, like the left loves to, is I guess my point. I feel like I gave such a long answer. I forgot what I was even getting.
I don't even think you give, it's almost like you think you're giving too long answers.
I do.
But I think that's what, that's what podcasts are for, right? People just,
what I'm getting too used to the TV format where you have like four. I went from podcast to TV, so I have to unlearn it because I've gotten down to where you have to do it in 4 seconds or else you're out of time.
Yeah. I know. That's what, I mean, it drives me a little crazy. That's what I used to love about Red Eye was that you had a panel. Most panel shows, hey, let's go to the panel segment. And you have all these talking heads come on. They do one segment. Each person gets like 3.5 words, and then they go to the commercial. And Red Eye was a panel for the entire hour. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know any other show that's like that outside of, the View and the Five, but Red Eye was different guests. So you'd have them on and you'd let them sit there for the whole hour. That's the way I like to do things.
Red Eye, I just remember when I was on how quick it went. It just felt like it was over as soon as it started. And it was weird. I don't remember being nervous or anything. And I still get nervous for shows here and there, but I remember not being nervous at all, which was odd for.
Well, I hope it wasn't odd. The reason was Tom Shillue. That's the reason. Well, no, because I like to create an environment of just chatting. That's the way that the show was when I watched it. Because and the reason is this: the stakes were so low. When Greg started the show, it was a aesthetic mess. Like it looked like the set looked like your set right now. It was like like they had like a fake brick wall or something. They had the Red Eye, but and I remember thinking, oh boy, this show is a mess. It seems like this guy Gutfeld doesn't even know what camera to look into, but the show is very fun because of that, because it's a late conversation. And now talking to Greg today, he's like, of course I didn't know. He had never done television before. He wanted to take some TV lessons, and they were like, you're on Monday. Like they gave him the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember hearing this story that I guess on the first day of Red Eye, the last guest set a guitar on fire in the studio. Yeah. Yes. And then they just assumed the show was going to get canceled, but no one at Fox watched it.
They hadn't seen it. Isn't that funny? Ailes gave him his own show, and then he was like, I'm going to bed. Like he did.
That's great. Good for him.
So your book, I listened to the Candace podcast, and it was interesting to me because Candace didn't seem to know, like she was being sincere. She wasn't being one of those interviewers who was like, what's going on with this guy? Yeah. Like she didn't seem to know. And I was surprised because he's such a, I don't know, people never stop talking about him, but apparently what she did was she said something about him and she said he was terrible. And then she got this, it was almost like what we spoke at the top of the show here with Cernovich. She gets all these accounts attacking, oh, you're anti-Semitic or whatever, because she attacked Soros. And I hear that kind of thing all the time. Now, obviously, he is, did I just say Cernovich? I meant Soros.
Yeah, no, you meant Soros. Yeah.
Yeah. Soros is a massively powerful billionaire he's one of the most influential people on planet Earth. And then this idea that you're not supposed to attack him, like it's almost unbelievable the gall that someone would say like, oh, you're anti-Semitic when he's not. I mean, it's George Soros. He is an evil billionaire. Everybody knows that, or even if you don't think he's evil, he's a billionaire who is essentially running the world like something out of like an Austin Powers, right? Mm-hmm. So you did this book on him, and you seem to be surprising Candace with all your information. Did that surprise you that she didn't seem to know as much about him?
You know what? To be honest, I can never tell if they're being rhtorical or not with some of the questions. So you would do a better. You would be able to notice better than me. But so I didn't pick up on that, which is interesting. But I don't know. I guess I wrote the book, so I shouldn't be surprised. I knew a bit more.
Maybe she was being like, oh, because she was deferring to your expertise. But I wonder if because the way you guys were talking back and forth, and it was like it was, is this guy, what is he? Is he evil or is he no? Now, I think he's evil. I think he's the classic, evil figure in the world today. But what does that really mean? And I think what it means is I'm sure he doesn't think he's evil, but I think he's a globalist. Would you agree with me that George Soros is a globalist? He does hate America because he hates countries. He hates borders. And he has an open society, and he's very open about the fact that he wants to break down borders and run the world out of a kind of billionaire / elitist think tank out of, like Davos or one of these places. He seems to align himself with that very openly. Like he doesn't like nation states that are powerful. We're the most powerful nation state in the world. Therefore, he wants to end that. So, of course, he wants to ruin America's cities, create chaos, basically tear down the American system in the way that the commies used to as well. When they would say, the commies are coming for America. And then the leftists would say, you're crazy. They're not coming from. Oh, well, of course they were.
Yeah.
Like their stated belief was world communism. We must destroy the capitalist system in the United States. So they had many projects at hand where they were trying to ruin America. And now we know that they were doing it, and they were in our government and everything else. He is that way too. I think he doesn't come out and say, I'm here to ruin America, but we know he is here to ruin America, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's a quintessential globalist. And there is a pattern where the left, where something awful will be happening that they're doing, and they'll say, like, no, it's not happening. And then once we really pull back the curtain and show it's happening, they reframe the debate to, okay, it's happening, but actually here's why it's really a good thing. So they'll deny, like, Soros, no, he doesn't fund Black Lives Matter. And then when you show the paper trail, it'll change to, oh, well, so he cares about racial justice and helping people. So it's you can't win either way. And just the fact that he's beyond criticism, and that multiple prestigious organizations will all rally to call you an anti-Semite for criticizing him.
Yeah.
The amount of power you need to make it a conspiracy, that any criticism of you is a conspiracy, is incredible. It proves itself the guy is extremely powerful, because who else has that kind of power where within 3 seconds of criticizing him, the Southern Poverty Law Center and Media Matters and every other group has branded you an anti-Semite. Yeah. And I don't think he's even a practicing Jew. So it's a bit weird to bring that up, that point. One thing too, I brought up in the Candace interview was that infamous 60 Minutes interview where Soros talks about aiding the Nazis as a kid and helping serving summons to Jews. And I gave the hedge of, he was forced against his will to do this. But however, when speaking about it, didn't seem to care very much when speaking about it. And it was funny that people would claim that we were being anti-Semitic for talking about Soros, but they didn't bring up that part of the interview. So, when we bring up, actions of Soros that themselves could be considered anti-Semitic, they don't bring that up. And in fact, what got Candace in trouble was she asked me a question after that where she said something like, do you think Soros himself was sympathetic to Hitler? Which I thought was a silly question, but I was like, given what he just said, I think my answer was something along the lines of like, given what he said, who knows, but probably not. But yeah, but my point was he was at the best case scenario, help Nazis against his will, but was extremely insensitive about it. And us criticizing Soros for that was what got reported as being anti-Semitic, but not him actually doing that. So that's just kind of the absurdity in dealing with anything Soros related. I would just say you kind of have to ignore it. When liberals say we're racist and conservative is like rush to make a list of every black friend they've ever had. Yeah. The fact of the matter is there is no level of evidence where liberals didn't go, oh, okay, I guess you're not racist. I was wrong. It's a gotcha. It means nothing.
Yeah, on a similar thing, I remember reading this week, and it may not have happened this week, but I was just reading about, he was a conservative MP, and he was forced to, by the Tory party, he's no longer Tory. The Tories got rid of him because he said that the COVID policy was the worst thing to happen since the Holocaust. It's in terms of human rights, COVID policy was the worst thing to happen since the Holocaust. And if you look at the quotes, it's almost unbelievable the way that everybody, Rishi Sunak or whatever, the fellow who's the
PM.
All of them came out, the Tories, Labor, and the prime minister all came out with statements saying that it was shocking anti-Semitism that he would equate COVID with the Holocaust, when in fact he said it was the worst thing since the Holocaust.
Yeah, he wasn't including it.
Well, he's almost saying he's giving the Holocaust position number one. Yeah. So the funny thing is, obviously, he's saying and then they would say it's shocking that he would do this. There's nothing like the Holocaust. It stands apart from all. He said it stands apart. He's saying that the Holocaust was the biggest thing of the last century, and then this is in second place.
I'm such a jerk in my head. I'm like, well, technically, he missed the Cambodian genocide, so you have to have it after that. He missed a few genocides since, so there's historical criticisms you can make, but so they were clearly taking it out of context there.
Yeah. So anyway, now the guy doesn't have to be a Tory anymore.
That's good.
He's not. And then everyone was saying, "Oh, look, this guy. It's good he got fired." And you know who actually said that? The reason I read it was Peter Daszak, the guy, that scientist.
Yeah.
He said it's great that he was forced out of office, but Peter Daszak doesn't even seem to realize he wasn't forced out of office. He's an independent now, so he's like cooler than all the rest of them. He's still an MP. Everyone's acting like an idiot.
The Conservative Party is not conservative either in UK. If you actually look at how they vote, their platform, it's basically like Clinton era Democrats in terms of their actual voting.
Well, Rishi Sunak is a Tory, right?
Yes.
So yeah, even the Tories, that's the party of Margaret Thatcher, and of course that ship has sailed as well.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. I have friends who are like UK conservatives, and they're all like anti-gun and want the government to run my healthcare, and I'm not on board with that.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was something that you never really said it, but through your retweets, I noticed something, because I've been noticing something lately on social media. I spend most of my time on Twitter and some time on Facebook, but I follow people wherever I can follow them, and most of them end up being on Twitter or X as it is now. But something that I've been noticing lately is that people are engaging in kind of strange talk online. Like, instead of giving their opinion, they ask you a question, like, and you retweeted this issue, and I thought, oh, is Matt seeing the same thing as me? Yeah. They're thirsty for clicks. Is that what's happening?
So ever since Elon took over, and I'll be honest, I didn't think Twitter could get worse, and there are ways it's better, but one of the consequences of the whole paying creators is it does incentivize you being a click farm. So you'll know, I've noticed in my feed, it's like the website World Star Hip Hop, where it's just like fight videos. Or like someone will post like a 20-year-old girl giving a dumb opinion and be like, this is why women are done forever. And it's like, I mean, okay, I get her. I agree she has a dumb opinion, but they're not all like this. That, and then things that will be captioned like, why does it seem like this is happening? Why does it this? Like, everything has to be a question so that people will comment and disagree with each other and get more money. But the thing is, too, the monetization isn't even good. Like, you have to be in the top 0.0001% to be making a salary at it, and you have to be really insufferable to do that. So it's just not a great business model.
Yeah, and so people, you think, are kind of looking. I didn't even see it as an Elon thing. You're thinking because Elon has incentivized by paying people that they're doing more.
You get paid based on views and engagement now. So if you get more comments, then all of their followers will see their comment, which will then show your post. So it's engagement bait. I mean, you saw this to some extent when ad rates were way higher for websites, where like the whole BuzzFeed era of articles that would be like 12 llamas who are who want to be giraffes, like just completely absurd articles that shouldn't exist. They kind of had that era of it, but I think we're seeing it now on Twitter, and I don't know. It's very annoying. And then I think, too, they're going to remove blocking. So I can't even block these people anymore, which is what I've been doing.
Oh, yeah. Why? Yeah. Now, why? What's the I know I like Elon, and I tend to, kind of I like keeping up with everything he does. And it's sometimes his reasons are funny, and sometimes they're, I don't know, like they're just whatever hits him. I like that he's a very rash individual.
Yeah, me too.
What's his stated reason for not having blocking?
So I don't know. I actually forgot it. I think I know the real reason, and that's that the advertisements on Twitter, there's like, it feels like we're down to 3 advertisers. We got like CBD gummies, some Cheech and Chong company.
Oh, Cheech and Chong's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's all I see. So if you block those 3 accounts, you never see advertisements on Twitter anymore. So all you got to do to get rid of ads is block, like, the only few people that are advertising. So I'm assuming that everyone's just doing that, so they can't generate ad revenue because it's so easy to block every advertiser. Yeah, that's just my theory, but it makes the most sense. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah. I mean, it does happen with. I'm on Instagram as well. I tend to put the Joe Biden videos on Instagram. I should probably do them on Twitter as well, but I've got to get a little more savvy about the way I do online things. I don't like to think about it very much, because the whole thing's rather annoying, but I'm sure I could be better at posting things. But I definitely have noticed that it's do you know those brothers, the Krasenstein brothers?
I don't know if they're for real or not.
I don't know. they don't seem like actual human beings. They almost seem like an AI created annoying.
Well, they ran one of their side hustles years ago was a real estate business, and if you read through their promotional materials, one of the people they promote as a brilliant real estate developer we should learn from is Donald Trump.
Really?
Really?
That's funny because they're Democrats, but then they love playing this. We're centrists. We're just like looking for answers. But a lot of that centrist thing to me, it's like a clickbait because they're the kings of. What do you guys think? Like, here's the situation. What do you guys think? And it's just so fake, and they're not interested in your opinion. These guys are like weird, like marketing guys or whatever. But I just don't trust brothers. Like when anyone who's a brother, like my brother and I, we have a great relationship. But I can't imagine being like an online buddy with my brother and being like the brothers. Whenever I see brothers acting together, and oftentimes they're twins, so it gives them a kind of a spooky look. Are the Krasenstein brothers twins?
I think they are. They look like they to me they look like twins. Yeah.
Yeah. But anytime I see twin brothers doing anything, it's just it seems a little weird to me.
Yeah.
I don't trust them. I don't mind like sisters. It seems fun. Oh, the sisters, we're doing our thing.
It's more wholesome. The brothers, it's just something weird about it.
There's something weird because to me, I don't know. It's like a guy thing, like doing things with your
going your own way and building on your own. And I definitely see that.
Yeah. So I'm against brothers.
And you're right. You're dead on in their case. They're brothers and they're not great. So.
Yes. Yeah. So Matt, that is a great conversation. Thanks for joining me. I think we did it. I think we did what was needed to be done. What do you think of the length of this podcast? I'm generally like a 30 to 45 minute guy. Even though the podcasts I love Rogan, I love these long podcasts, but I don't know, it doesn't match my personality. I don't like, really short, like I said, soundbite kind of talk. But for me, I feel like, it's like with stand up, it's 45 minutes, maybe an hour with a headliner, but I don't like 90 minutes. It's too long for me.
30 to 40 is ideal for me. If it's a longer podcast, I know this is so embarrassing to admit, I need the timestamps. And people do this. There's always one guy in the YouTube comments who will timestamp in a podcast every single thing that's talked about.
Oh, yeah.
You can click 38 minutes in and it'll say what they're talking about. So I like when I can bounce around like that.
Yeah,
but if not, 20 to 40 is probably, or maybe 30 to 40, it should be, I have a below average attention span though. So
well, this people think that online content is short attention span. That's the whole idea. We're in a snap world. We're like TikTok, but Rogan proved that wrong. Long and even guys like Mark Maron. People love long interviews, and that's so the short attention span thing. I think it's totally false. But for me,
it's true. Unfortunately,
it is. Yeah. Well, for me, 40 minutes is probably the tops of where we're going to go. We're kind of getting around 40 minutes now, and I may learn how to do that chapter feature because I would say this would be for me. The Cernovich incident would be chapter 1, and then George Soros would be 2, and then our twin brothers evil would be chapter 3. So very good. Okay, Matt, we'll do this again. Maybe we'll have a regular feature where we'll have you update us in your because you're very in touch with the extreme right.
I got contacts everywhere. And are you still doing the Saturday night show?
Yes, in fact,
all right.
They rotate people on the Fox News Saturday night show. I'd actually like to have you on my panel.
That would be good.
And but what they do is like everything on Fox, they all make us kind of they move the hosts around, so it's constantly like you're always auditioning on Fox.
Okay,
how'd I do this week? All
right, well, if there's any way they could put both of us on, like, guarantee it's us, it would be a cool red eye throwback.
Certainly. And then I had Mike Baker.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
And that was a great episode. And who was on the Cernovich episode? Mike Baker. It was Mike Baker. It was Cernovich. It was, I can't remember the third person, but then Joanne. But anyway, those were the days.
Those were.
All right, Matt.
We're still on. All right. I thought we were off for a second.
No. Well,
all right, we're all good.
I like having sloppy beginnings and sloppy endings. It is an ode to the man who got me into the media business, Greg Gutfeld.
Excellent.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
Thanks.
Bye.